So this is a continuation on my talk about just basic hygiene. And yes, I'm saying it to you loud and as clearly as I can. You should not need to buy any feminine hygiene product in order to smell down there. That your body is capable, the vagina is self-cleaning, and that the area that you need to pay attention to is the skin on the outside. The skin on the outside, the outer lips, those are the lips that have the hair, the inner lips, and the space in between the inner lips and the outer lips sometimes can be material can deposit in between that area. But if you're taking the time to wash, mild soap, clean water, that's it. That should be enough. You don't have to use any other product. Vaseline shouldn't be necessary. Nothing should be necessary. Just clean and dry.
When will we know to come to the gynecologist?
That's a good question. So what's normal and what's not normal? Because it is normal to have a vaginal discharge. And your vaginal discharge will change depending where you are on your menstrual cycle, assuming you're not on some form of hormonal contraception. And so what happens...
What should I smell like normally?
So there shouldn't be any foul odor. And the discharge should never be profuse, meaning you should never see it running out your legs. You should never need a sanitary napkin or inner or anything to catch the discharge. It should be a very slight discharge without an offensive odor. Now, things that trigger you, that what you're seeing may not be normal, is if there's a change in color. If it's no longer white, but now it's looking yellow or green, that may be an indication that you need to have it checked out. If you notice that there is an odor and the odor is strong, and a lot of times women will describe it as a fishy odor. And it doesn't necessarily always have to smell fishy, but it's distinct, and you know, this is the part where you have to know yourself. You know that this is a change from what you normally experience. And then the other is if you start to have other symptoms like itching, irritation, or if you notice swelling of the skin on the outside. Those are all indications that there may be something going on and you need to follow up with a gynecologist.
I just want to share my experience with BV. I had BV, and at the time I had BV, I was training like very, very consistently at a Muay Thai gym. I was wearing like tight clothes, underwear. I was like sweating for like 2 hours a day, and it was 2 to 3 hours a day. It was like, I was very intense. And what happened when I had BV is I experienced like a change in smell, but it wasn't significant. It was significant, but it wasn't concerning because I didn't experience anything else, just a slight change in odor. And I didn't know I had it until I went to the gynecologist just for my annual visit. It's kind of like, hey, you don't smell the way you should.
So I'm hearing you say two things. One is that you perceived that there was a change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were accustomed to a discharge with a certain type of odor, and now you notice that now there was a distinct change.
And it didn't smell, and that's the thing to be mindful of. It doesn't always smell like fish. I would say like it was just kind of like sharp, metallic-y.
A strong odor.
Almost like bleachy. It did not, just not normal, but I wasn't walking around in a cloud of fish, like kind of smelling odor, like, and there wasn't, like any itchiness or any other symptoms. So just be mindful of how you smell, because that could also be an indication, because not everything has a lot of symptoms.
That's right. The other thing that you said was that you had been exercising intensely prior to noticing this change. And I should say that BV, bacterial vaginosis, is not considered a sexually transmitted infection. It occurs when there is an overgrowth of bacteria in your vagina. Now, we all have bacteria in the vagina, and that's a good thing. You may have heard of the GI microbiome, which means that there's bacteria within our GI tract, and that's there, and it's purposeful, and it's supposed to be there. Same thing for your vagina. There is bacteria in your vagina. The problem is with BV, you get an overgrowth of bacteria. And one of the things that will cause an overgrowth of bacteria is if you're engaging in some sort of intense exercise, a closed area, there's sweat and bacteria all mixing up in that area that can predispose you to an overgrowth.